Let's keep this parade of awesome Susans going. We are in for a big treat because we are about to step behind the gold curtain. Ooh, and spend some time with a Met superstar. Again, please note that there will be time during this discussion for our educators to ask questions of our guest. So if a question comes to you, please submit it to Dan Marshall directly via the chat. Take advantage of this just very special opportunity we're about to have. And we may even bring you on screen. So put on your good sweatpants. We got company. But before we launch, let's take a look at our next guest in action on the Met stage.
Das ist der letzte Abend, den ich mit diesem Volk verbringe. Ich kehre nach Deutschland zurück. Ich lasse mich immatrikulieren. Ich muss für Frauenrechte kämpfen, Jurisprudenz studieren. Nein, nein, nein,
The drama today, the drama of it all. Oh, now we have one of the most prolific and versatile artists working in opera today. At the Met alone, she has sung in 20 operas by 12 composers in repertoire that spans the entire history of the art form, including the role of Countess Geschfitz in Lulu. And she doesn't just light up the opera stage. She performed at the 2004 presidential inauguration and at Ted Kennedy's funeral. She is a Grammy winner. She is a Chevalier of the Order of Arts and Letters. She is a U.S. delegate for UNESCO, and she is, by all accounts, one of the most delightful people that we are ever going to meet. Additionally, her pronouns are she, her, hers. She is a white woman with blonde hair, and we'll reveal what the background of her Zoom square looks like. And just there she is. There's some hot pink glasses, there's an orange sweater, there's some beautiful turquoise jewelry, and behind you, window blinds and piano music. She is joining us from Chumash, Tongva which is currently known as Burbank, California. Friends, please give a warm Zoom welcome to Susan Graham. Hi, Susan Graham.
Well, hi there. Thank you, Susan Blackwell. It's so nice to be with you all.
There's so many amazing Susans up in this Zoom today, Susan.
How about that?
You're just adding to the party. So, over the past few months, we have been asking all of our guests the following questions. Where are you now and how are you now? But for reals.
But for reals.
But for reals.
Well, I have been splitting my time between my home here in Burbank, and we also have a home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And so I've been spending quite a bit of time in Santa Fe. I keep the road hot between California and New Mexico, not flying, but driving. And my mother and my sister also live in New Mexico. So it makes a good opportunity to visit with them. And we're all tested. Now we're all vaccinated, but during the whole time we were all getting tested all the time. And so it was, we were very safe about our visits. And but the last 3 weeks have taken on a kind of new vitality, because 3 weeks ago we got this little critter. I know.
What's that little friend's name?
This is Ruby. She's a 3-month-old red miniature poodle, and she's just changed our lives completely.
Ruby, we're so happy that you're here with us on this Zoom. What a beauty. Ruby is beautiful.
She really is. She's copper colored and just as she's fresh up from a nap right now, but she's as rambunctious as she can possibly be once she wakes up.
maybe she'll have something to say to us a little bit later. She seems like
Well,
she really likes you, and you seem
she
like you really
has,
like her.
well, she has found her voice. She didn't bark for about the first week we had her, and then she found her voice. It's a
Susan, we
beautiful
play a
timbre
fun
too.
game. We have two Chihuahuas, and the little one is very little, but we find if we do ow, and I bet you do a great ow, that Ruby might sing along with you
Well, I
if you
will
work on it.
tell you that early in my career, I had a toy poodle named Libby who traveled the world with me, and everybody in the business knew her. She was the mascot of my whole generation of singers, and she lived to be 18 years old. And she would definitely sing along. She every time
Oh,
I would vocalize, she would sit on the couch, and I don't know whether it was in solidarity or protest, but
we don't know either, but we love it. We don't know. We're like,
let's see if Ruby will play. Ooh, Ruby. I think she just wants to get down.
she's just like, just to hug me.
She's
I'm
just
just waking up from a nap. She's rubbing her eyes. She's saying, "What time is it, Mom?" Um, it's so sweet. We're so happy that you're here, Susan and Ruby. And in addition to Ruby, Susan, is there anything else that you're feeling particularly optimistic about right now?
well, yes. Shockingly, I have an upcoming recital in Philadelphia that didn't get canceled. I mean,
Hey,
we were so, cancellations were coming so fast and furious that it got to not even be surprising anymore. Everyone was a gut punch, but we grew to expect it
yeah,
because it's just the way things were. And then, did you hit that? Was Ruby yawning?
that's my girl. There we go.
Oh, she's hilarious. Anyway, and then a few weeks ago, I got word that this Philadelphia recital was still on and hadn't been canceled yet. And I thought that's that felt like a miracle that
Yeah.
a contract is actually being fulfilled. So I get to fly on an airplane to New York City in May, and then because we still have an apartment in New York, and then we'll go to Philadelphia and sing in front of people.
Oh,
It feels so
congratulations.
shocking. I was very lucky to be asked to do a filming of Jake Hagee's opera called Three Decembers last fall with Opera San Jose. And I just recently watched part of it again this morning, and I was struck again by how it felt to finally be able to do what we have taken for granted for 30 years, what I have taken for
Yeah.
granted for 30 years, to have the freedom to do it in front of people again. I mean, even in front of cameras, but with other people in the room, and
Yeah.
not just singing in your living room over, I'm sorry to say, Zoom or,
Yeah.
or, making
Or making
recording.
Ruby listen to you. Absolutely. I think, you're speaking to a community of educators who are with you on this Zoom right now. And
Yes.
I'm really curious. One of my curious questions around this pandemic is when we do emerge into our new normal, for people
Hmm.
like you, opera
Yeah.
singers, teachers, people who really their work centers on gatherings of people, how long will
Hmm.
we be able to maintain that sense of, not taking it for granted? And I'm just so curious to see how
Well,
that unfolds.
I think it's going to be a a retransition period for
Yeah.
people, and it's going to be, like I experienced, so joyful, but then it goes back into something that we've been practicing our whole lives, so it doesn't become it becomes normal pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it became normal so fast that started forgetting to wear my mask,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
and then I would think, oh, wait, we're still in a pandemic here, I still have to wear my mask, but you get used to, you slip slightly into the norms that we're used to,
Yeah.
and then it all starts to, we remember what it was like, and we
Yeah.
remember, but I think that we have all been changed by that very thing that you pointed out, by that very thing of knowing what it is to not have it.
Yes, something that we really, it was just built into the fabric of our lives. Yeah, it's such a fascinating time and will continue to be so. Uh,
And
s-
yeah, and I think that, and first of all, I have to say that I have the utmost respect and regard for educators who have powered through this incredibly difficult time.
mm,
I know how important it is for all of you to have the energy, the face-to-face energy with the people that you're working with and the students and everything like that. Because singing for a camera and singing with people in the room
yeah,
are two completely different animals.
yeah,
I was
absolutely.
lucky enough to be able to ask to record some holiday music, some Christmas music, when I was in Santa Fe over the holidays, and I was asked to come into a cathedral with a camera crew and everything and record these songs, and I was happy to do it. But I asked the producer, I said, "Can I bring two friends?" So that they can just come and hear, because it's a beautiful acoustic and I love singing in
Yes.
that place in Santa Fe. And I brought two people that I love. They sat very far apart from each other. And it changed the whole experience for me to be able
Of
to sing
course.
music I love for people I love. It gave me a performing experience
Oh, it's
to share from
gorgeous.
my heart, which is what we do. We
Yeah.
share from our hearts. We're not just reciting, we're
No.
sharing what we have inside, which is so important. And to have someone there to receive it is just as important.
I love that. I love that. Susan, as I just mentioned, there you are speaking to this community of educators who are instilling a love of opera in their students and in their communities. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about how you first came to love music?
Oh my goodness. My mother tells the story of me just being a toddler, and she put me on her lap and taught me to play a C chord, and then a G chord, and then a C chord. My mother always played the piano. And so, she would play something and she'd go, "Okay, put your little finger on this note." And I would play the descant unknowingly. But music was always in our house. My mother, like, as I said, played the piano. My older sister started studying piano quite seriously from a young age. So I would always hear her practicing Beethoven and Mozart and Chopin and everything. And then when I got old enough to start taking piano lessons, I did. And I was very serious about it for a very long time, all the while also being in church choirs and school choirs and things like that. So singing and piano were piano was in first place, singing was in second place
Ah,
until I got into high school, and I had always been singing alongside playing the piano. And I grew up in New Mexico, but we moved to Texas when I was in 8th grade. And when you get into Texas, it's very competitive. If there's a competition for everything. So my piano teacher entered me in, Beethoven sonata competitions and also all the singing competitions. And because I'd played the piano for so long, I had a really good ear. And so I could always sing the right notes, and I was a good musician. So I was getting singing awards for my musical skills. I thought, I didn't think I had a great voice or anything. And then in high school, they cast me as Maria in The Sound of Music.
ah.
That was the end of my serious piano study.
And then you were changed.
I was a changed person. The theater bug bit and never let go,
Tell
because it
tell us
was
about that. Like, were you just like, "Oh my God, I have superpowers." Like, what was that transition like
it,
for you?
it was becoming someone else, and
Mm,
being on a stage and sharing, again, sharing what was inside me through my voice and through the character in a way that I never figured out how to do sitting behind a piano.
yeah.
Singing to me was always so much more direct communication, direct, and we musicians, singers, teachers, whoever, we're all about communication. I think we just want to connect.
Yeah.
We want to connect with people. And so for me, it was plus the camaraderie of being in a cast. Every time I went to rehearsal, it was fun, and people
Yeah.
were having fun, and people were all it was a bunch of people working together with a common goal to be um to to accomplish this, put this show together and to all tell the same story. It was it builds such a feeling of fellowship and community that has never gone away.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm also as struck as you're talking. I think one of the things, I'm just going to say stuff and you just have to take it. One of the things that makes
Okay.
you, you ready? One of the things that makes you such a great opera performer is that you are such a good actor. Just,
Oh, thank you.
but I mean, even just watching the clip that we just watched, it's you're so in your body, and clearly, I mean, clearly you're a very gifted singer. Duh. But
Well, thank
you're a
you.
really great actor too.
Gosh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's developed a lot along the way, and I have to say that I had a good training and background when I was in university at Texas Tech University. Back then, we had a great opera department and a great theater department, and the two disciplines were very intertwined. So it
Really?
was, yes,
Wow.
and that's
Wow.
something that doesn't exist all the time now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
opera singers were required to take 2 years of acting class and 2 years of language study. It's changed. It's not the same anymore. But I really, really benefited from that. But the the biggest thing that I gained was experience
Yeah.
and and confidence
Yeah.
on the stage to tell the story. I remember, there's a very famous German director named Willy Decker, and Willy Decker was his whole goal is to get rid of any kind of artifice. He wants to tell real story. He doesn't want you to stand there like an opera singer and be
Right.
grand or whatever. And sometimes when we're young and we're playing, I've played female and male characters, as you know. I played
Right.
a lot of pants roles on the stage, but I was playing Charlotte in Werther, and we were in Amsterdam, and he was directing this. And Charlotte is an ingenue. She's a young woman who gets herself into a lot of hot water, but she's a young woman, and so my hands were kind of like this. He would run, and I'm showing that with a sort of flimsy young girl hands with the wrist bent.
Yeah.
And he would run up on the stage during a rehearsal and come up and smack my hands. He would smack my hands to get me to straighten out my wrists and just be a person and not
Yeah.
be posing. Don't pose. And so that was sort of the beginning of an awakening for me, to just be real, to just be,
Yeah. I
and
think
to
that's
and
what
to
I'm
let
that's what
the
I'm picking up. Yeah.
emotion of the music and the character dictate what the body is going to do. But on top of that, we also have to have a good singing frame. So sometimes those things are at odds. But I've had to sing lying on the floor, curled up in the fetal position, hanging from a balcony, hanging with one arm from a balcony. Um, and one time I had to sing lying on the floor with my head hanging over into the pit. Like, there's all kinds of things. From inside a box, I've had to be inside a box and singing. You have no idea.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of such wonders, I have to believe in all the time that you've worked at the Met. I think this is an excellent seg. You've had some Met adventures, which I'm calling Met ventures. So I'm going to prompt you with some Met venturous questions. Here we go.
Oh
What is one
boy,
of the most magical moments you've had on stage at the Met? Just one magical moment that you've experienced on stage at the Met.
that's easy. That's an
Ooh.
easy one. My first Rosenkavalier, I had very little rehearsal because I was taking only one performance. Anne Sophie von Otter had the whole run of the performances of Octavian. This was in probably 1995 or six. You'd think I would remember because it's such a standout moment, but back then all the years kind of ran together. But anyway, um, but the only performance she couldn't do was opening night. Yeah. So I was, and I was scared. I had
My
done
God.
Rosencavalier before. I had done it in at the Welsh National Opera, 15 performances, no prompter, all over Southern England and Wales.
Wow.
But at the Met, it's a different ball game.
Sure.
So I had rehearsed, and then opening night came. And I came out on stage, and I don't know if y'all all know about this. It's on YouTube. You can find it. The presentation of the Rose, Act 2 of Rose and Cavalier. I come out in a sparkly white costume that's glitters so much you'd think I was a human disco ball. It is so pretty. And then I come out and I have this Tiffany sterling silver, real sterling silver rose. And I hit my mark exactly as the music has a little tinkly music. And then I sing the most glorious phrase, and the orchestra sort of just stops, and they're all on tremolos, and I sing, Mir ist die Ehre widerfahren. And all I could hear was my heart pounding in my chest, because here I was looking at 4,000 people in a packed Met house. James Levine is just giving me the stage and smiling at me. And I just prayed I would come in on the right note, because it was the most exhilarating, pinch me, I'm dreaming, culmination of a lifelong dream moment in my whole life.
That is a great answer to that question. Holy
Magic.
macaroni.
Magic. Yeah.
Okay. What's one of your favorite costumes you've ever worn at the Met?
Same one. The disco ball.
The disco ball.
I mean, look up pictures of it. It is extraordinary. It's white with white sparkles all over it. It's got a long vest, knee breeches, white tights, white shoes with a red heel, as was a court custom of the day, and a long white coat with giant cuffs that turn back and are bedazzled to beat the band.
Dan Marshall, am I wrong? Do we have a picture of this?
Oh, we do.
Oh, let's show it. Let's not just talk about it or think about it. Let's look at it.
Let's show it. Let's relive it.
Take us there, Dan Marshall. Here we go.
Yep.
There you go. You're giving me some strong Liberace. I mean, that is good stuff.
It's that was an amazing costume. I felt like $1 million every time I got to wear it.
I'm sure that costume cost $1 million. That is amazing. I love that. Okay, here's another question, a Met Vedstress question. What's the most it may be the same moment. What's the most nervous that you can recall being inside the walls of the Met?
Nervous. Well, there's nervous, and then there's terror.
Yes.
You know, and the levels of nervousness change over the years. We used to be nervous on the Saturday afternoon Texaco radio broadcast, because that was the one that we knew people across the country were going to turn on their cassette recorders, and they were going to record it, and they could go back and play every note that you think you messed up. So that was our benchmark of perfection. And now with Sirius and everything, there's always a record. It's every performance is either on the radio or broadcast or recorded. And now we've got HD. So that's a whole nother level of, we have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so all the HD performances I try to forget that the cameras are rolling, but we know that when we're going for a high note, which is not always a pretty sight, that sometimes it's just a little too close. Sometimes, yeah. But it's not nervous. It's just kind of like, is that
aware?
An
awareness. You know,
but really, nerves come from feeling unprepared. And for the most part, the Metropolitan Opera never lets you feel unprepared.
That's lovely.
There's so much going on.
I think it's worth noting for the teachers, just in terms of bringing your students into this experience and cultivating empathy. I think it's worth noting that singers like Susan Graham have an awareness when the very same Met HD Live performances that those students are watching, those performers are feeling that too, and they have an awareness that those students are watching them. I think that's worth noting. Yeah.
Yes, we know you're out there. We know you're out there, and we're very happy that you're out there. And we love to tell our stories. And I've heard 1 million times that a lot of people, they really dig the up close and personal aspect because they can really
Yeah.
see the mechanics of what's going on, and they
Yeah.
can see, you know, I remember watching our Rosencavalier that was filmed, and they did some great camera work uh, on a moment where I was feeling dejected by the marshland and I was putting on my gloves. And I always feel that very strongly, but I don't know if it ever translates out into the audience, that the way that you put on gloves when you're upset about something, you put
Yeah.
on the gloves and make sure that those fingers are. And I always knew I was doing it, but I didn't know if anybody ever caught it. But the camera caught it. And then I thought, this is one of the, that's good. That's a good glimpse into what's really going on the stage. Because when you're in
Yeah.
an audience and you're sitting out there, it's fantastic. And there's nothing like the visceral hit of the music coming at you in an audience. But when you get to see a little bit of close up, it brings it to life in a different way.
I dig that. I dig that.
Yeah.
What is one of the best things that you've seen at the Met that you weren't in?
Oh gosh. Every performance of Tosca, I live with envy. I'd love to be a Tosca. Um, Porgy and Bess.
Hmm. Those are good answers.
Porgy and
And
Bess was
just,
fantastic. I saw it on
yeah,
opening night.
agreed. Just for fun, tell us about one of the times that you laughed the hardest, either on stage or backstage at the Met.
Oh my gosh, every time I'm there. Are you kidding? I mean, I can't tell you about one of them. I'll tell you, one of them I can't tell you.
Does it make you seem unprofessional? We won't tell your secret.
It's well, let's see. Let's see. I will say that I had an esteemed colleague who got a rip in his pants on stage,
There
and
you
I was in the
go.
audience and I watched it, and that was pretty funny because everybody knew but him.
Oh, there you go. That's what we're
I
looking
felt
for.
terrible for him, but at the same time, I was just like, oh man, that's
Oh,
bad. But things go wrong on stage all the time, things go wrong all the time. And it's kind of hilarious. And when you drop a prop, or one time I got the giggles. It was again in Rosencavalier, and I was singing with Renee Fleming, and we're really good friends. And so not much passes between us that goes unnoticed. But in my Octavian costume, I was a boy, and I had all these rows of buttons on my first act uniform. And of course, her first act costume had a lot of bows. You know what
oh
happens
no.
when buttons and bows get caught together?
You
And we were
became
in some sort of
engaged and connected.
we were engaged and very connected, but in a way that was going to be bad, because she had to walk away from me in about 15 seconds, and she was going to drag me with her unless I disengaged us. So she's singing and I'm kind of frantically trying to get the things unconnected. It was hilarious.
Oh my
She said to
gosh.
me later, she didn't know what I was doing because she was busy singing. She said, what were you fiddling with your costume? I said, your bows were all wound around my buttons.
I was flirting. I was flirting.
Yeah, I was flirting.
Oh, that's so funny. We'd love to show you some more pictures of you featured in Met Productions. And if you could just tell us a little bit about what we're seeing.
Okay.
Dan, will you hit us with that first photo? Tell us about this beauty.
Oh gosh. I was Sycorax in Enchanted Island, which was a sort of Baroque pastiche opera where we took bits of Vivaldi and Handel and gosh, I don't even remember all the other composers, but I was a witch, and I started out really hideous. I wish you had a picture of how I started the opera, with horrible gray kind of coiled matted hair and nasty gray makeup. And as the opera went on, I became more and more glamorous until finally at the end I was covered in gold. That's what do you call that? Gold
Décolletage.
foil,
Oh,
gold
yeah.
foil on my skin. That was
Wow.
yeah. And this beautiful plumed costume, and I regained my powers. That was quite stunning. That was a great costume.
This costume has been cited as one of our favorites as well.
Oh,
Dan, can you
good.
show? Yes, show
Oh,
us
now
this. Now we're getting into it.
from the glamorous to the less. Then this is Countess Geschfitz in Lulu. it was the most difficult opera I've ever tried to learn. The music is incredibly difficult. And I thought that it would never stick in my head, but eventually it did.
Yeah, I mean, Susan, you could fill volumes with what I don't know about music, but even I know that this score is very complex. And so, how did you navigate this and rehearse it and
Loads,
perform it?
loads and loads of repetition and coaching,
Mm,
and yeah, I just studied my head off.
hard
Um,
work.
yeah, and plus the bar was very high because I was in a cast full of Germans, all of whom had sung this opera before.
Oh my gosh.
You know, Marlis Peterson, the most incredible Lulu you could ever imagine. It's very, very hard music, but you could take dictation off of her accuracy of singing these pitches. She made it sound like Mozart. It was amazing.
Wow.
And it was an incredible cast to be in. And the character of Countess Geschfitz, she is a lesbian, and she's, of all of the lovers that Lulu has, and she has a lot of them, they all treat her terribly, except for my character. My character is the one who only person who truly loves in this opera,
Mm, mm.
but ends up getting killed by Jack the Ripper. So there you go.
There you go. There you go. Just a little light fare. And now, what are we seeing here?
Oh, this is Berlioz's La Damnation de Faust, Damnation of Faust. And this is Marguerite in that amazing production that was the precursor. I'm so spacing on the, please help me with the director's name. I'm spacing.
Dr. Kamala Schelling, paging Dr. Kamala Schelling.
It's the guy who did The Ring.
Lepage,
It's Robert
Lepage.
Lepage, right? Yes, Robert Lepage, French Canadian. Fantastic production, and he was practicing the technology that he would later use on the Ring cycle.
Mm.
On this production of Damnation of Faust. So there was lots of projection work. You see there, I'm singing that my soul is consumed by fire. And there in the projection, you see that I'm being consumed by fire.
I'll be damned.
It's great music.
And here we have this friend again.
Oh, I see that guy. I know that guy.
I know
Yeah.
that guy.
Octavian is probably the role I think that I've sung more than any other at the Met. I've done a lot of performances of Rosenkavalier at the Met. And every single time is just a thrill. My last one was in 2010. And I did so many performances with Renee, including those last ones. And that run ended in January 2010. And when we did the last performance, we couldn't even look at each other during the first act is all about them having to eventually say goodbye to each other.
Mm.
And when she's singing this big monologue and I'm sort of sitting on the floor with my head in her lap, normally I'm looking up at her while she's singing that, but I couldn't look at her because we both would have just burst into tears
Oh,
because we knew it was the last time we would sing that on stage together.
oh, it's beautiful. So, not to put you on the spot, but by all accounts, you are beloved by everyone at the Met.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
I don't make the news, I just report it. Can you tell us a bit about how you engage with others? Do you have any wisdom to share about how you conduct yourself as a human being moving through the world?
Well, I try to come into the room, and by the room, I mean the show or the rehearsal room or whatever
Sure.
it is, with a lot of positive energy. And I want to have a good time. So I want everybody else to have a good time too. I'm a little bit of a class clown, and I have been called Miss Congeniality. But I just want to, I bottom line is I want to have fun.
Yeah.
So I want everybody else to have fun too, because it builds a team, and it brings everyone sort of together. And my generation of singers, we all sort of grew up in a world that there were no cell phones or internet when we were starting our careers. So we spent a lot of time with each other. And we would always go out after rehearsals and performances. And we just, there was such camaraderie in my whole generation. And, so it just sort of, that spills over into the rehearsal, and it just makes everything better when people are in a good mood.
Oh, that's lovely. Be the party you'd like to see in the world, friends. So
Yeah.
there you go. Educators, we're going to take some questions from you. Dan, do we have any questions coming into the chat, or anyone with their hands? Oh, the chat is now open. Well, while we're waiting for people to either put things into the chat or raise their hands, I'll ask this question. So these teachers who are present today will be preparing their students and communities to take in the opera Lulu. What do you think one needs to know at the most basic level to understand the story of Lulu and enjoy this opera?
I'm not sure I understand the whole story of Lulu. You have to understand, in this particular production, you have to understand that there's the artistic story being told. William Kentridge was the director, and he's also an incredible visual artist. And so a lot of the opera is his storytelling through painting and visual medium. And it goes along with the storytelling of the opera. There are doubles for some of the main characters. Lulu has a double who is sort of telling a story through dance and movement simultaneously. And the character of Lulu is, I see her, especially the way Marlis plays her, she's very childlike, and she believes everybody and trusts everybody. And it always goes wrong for her.
Mm.
But she's lost. And so she's just trying to find something to latch onto. And she latches onto a lot of the wrong things.
Got it. That
And
would
the
be
music
good.
and the music is sometimes not easy, but it doesn't seem tuneful because it's 12-tone music, which means it sort of adheres to a different type of note organization. That's not important. What you need to listen to is the emotion of the music. And I think that this production tells a visual story that goes along very well with the musical story.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. We have a question from Joan Flesh. When preparing for a role, Susan, do you listen to others who have sung the role before?
Not initially. The first thing I do with a new role is sit down at the piano and play through it and sing through it. And the music has to strike me first. And now with Lulu, the score was too hard. I couldn't play it. And furthermore, listening to a recording of Lulu, I did have to listen to it to sort of find my way through it musically, to find how my part fit in with some of that. But then I take all of that away and I just do my part and how it evolves. I take it apart in layers. I do the notes first. Is that true? I do the notes and the text, break them down sort of together, and then I do them separately. So I have to be able to sing the notes on la 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 la.
Got it.
To learn and then I put the text on top of that, which is probably why if I'm going to forget anything in a show, it's going to be text, because text does not stick in my head as much as the music does. Thank God for prompters.
Is this a process that you have developed over time? Is it something that you were taught? How did that process evolve of preparation?
It sort of goes along with what my priorities are, because I'm a very sort of, I love the character and I look very carefully at the character too. And if the character is someone I can relate to, then I'll say yes to the opera. But the music has to speak to me. So the music is the most fun for me. So the music is what I do first. It just sort of works out that way. I learned a new role a couple of years ago, Regina, from Mark Blitzstein's opera Regina. And it's the operatic telling of The Little Foxes, the Betty Davis movie and the Lillian Hellman play.
Sure.
And And I will admit that I watched Betty Davis's film to sort of get tips on who Regina might be. But then I put my own spin on it because I grew up in the Southwest, but South adjacent. And Regina is from an Alabama aristocratic family, and she's very manipulative and not a very nice lady. And I will say that I have grown up next to some of those people, and I know them very well.
You could draw from it. You
I could
draw
draw
that.
from my experience, yes.
Yeah, that's great. We've got Dan. It sounds like we have some questions coming in. Dan Marshall.
We have two questions. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Susan's. We have a question from Doreen who asks, how do opera singers who can't play the piano, how do they learn a role? Since
Great
this isn't
question.
your reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they hire coaches. Coaches teach, I assume. Luciano Pavarotti couldn't play the piano, to my knowledge. And a lot of, he had a lot of people teaching him music. He had his own system for learning music, but that's why God made coaches, to help us all be better and fill in the gaps in knowledge and skill that we don't have ourselves. And I must say that a very vital part of my memorization process is getting a coach to play the part over and over and over and over and over. And I go through different levels of memorization. I write out the text on index cards. Anybody who's ever performed with me knows this, because I usually bring them into the first initial rehearsals just to double check that I'm in the right place. And I will tell you that different roles have different numbers of index cards with front and back, depending on how wordy the role is or how long the role is. But the process is, if I can sing it just looking at the index cards, and then I take away the index cards in my preparation process. And that's part of my layering of memorization with coaches. But, there are people who start with a coach from day one, and that's perfectly fine.
I have a great question from Andra Wilson, and I'm going to spotlight her so she can ask it directly.
Good.
Hey, Andra.
Hi, Andra.
Hello.
Hello. Susan, thank you for joining us today. And my question, it's a two-part question. One, performing an opera like Rosenkavalier frequently, how do you keep it fresh for a new audience? And then if you're having an off day, what's something that will put you in a better mood for a performance?
Great questions.
Good questions, both of them. I will tell you that there were in the year 2000, I performed Rosenkavalier more than any other year. We did it at the Met, we did it in London, and it was Renee and Franz Havlata and me. The three of us were going around all over the world doing this opera. And I remember one particular performance, and I'm not proud of this, but I'll tell you, it's just among us friends, that I remember one performance where I was singing the famous Rosenkavalier trio. And I was really tired it was the end of the night. I was, for some reason, I was tired that night. And I realized that I was sort of just singing it. I wasn't really 100% invested in it. And I looked up, this was at the Royal Opera Covent Garden and in London. And I looked up and I saw the balcony close to the stage. And I saw an elderly man leaning over the balcony rim like this, and his eyes were wide. And he was riveted. And I thought, I owe that man more than I'm giving him. And boy, did I do a 180. I mean, I turned it on and I sang my heart out for the rest of that trio for him. And I realized from that point on, there's always somebody hearing this for the first time. It may not have been his first time, it may have been his 400th Rosenkavalier, but there's always somebody hearing it for the first time. It doesn't matter how many times I've done it. And to keep it fresh for me, I remind myself of that, but also in the performance aspect of it, if you are living in the moment every time, it's never the same.
True.
Because every moment is different. And when you're in the moment, you're making decisions as the character. Susan's not making the decision, Octavian's making the decision. So it's on how to sit down or how to pour the chocolate or how to put on those gloves. Every time it's different because every day is different. So that keeps it fresh. And plus, when you're with different cast members, it could be my 200th Rosenkavalier, but my first time with a particular marshal in. So that's a whole different dynamic, you know. The cast makes a difference. And so, okay, so second part of your question, when I'm having a bad day, what gets me in the mood? Sort of sitting in the makeup chair and, you know, kibitzing with my makeup artist and my hair and wig person and getting into the costume. It just sort of, I mean, because there are those days where you just think, I can't do this. But then you get in, you start putting on the character. The character starts to come to life, and then the character kind of takes over. And then you hear that music, and no matter what, when you hear that music and you're standing out off stage waiting to walk on, everything changes. The adrenaline goes, pew, and you could be shot out of a cannon.
That's great.
Thank
Thank you, Andra. Those were great questions. And I think we want to take one more question from Valeria. Do we get to see Valeria, or Dan, are you going to read the question out?
I think she's got her video turned off, but Valeria asks, and this is wonderful, how do you keep, wait, what is it? Nope, sorry, wait, I'm missing it. Hang on. My question for Miss Graham is, how has your vocal development evolved since you started singing, and how have the roles available to you changed over time?
Oh, that's a good question. I've always tried to keep a very, very healthy singing technique. For that reason, I have studied with the same teacher for over 30 years, Marlena Mollis, greatest teacher in the world. And I check in with her still. I've had lessons with her over Zoom in the past year. And she knows my voice so well, and she knows when I'm, you know, sneaking in a bad habit or trying to do something the wrong way. And she lets me know, and I do my best to fix it. And I use all of that knowledge when I teach. And, you know, it's very important to keep, I think it's very important to keep studying, because the voice does change over time. And a lot of the veteran singers that I've talked to, even before I was one, always said the same thing. They said, you know, it's important to keep up your study because the instrument changes. Nevertheless, because the instrument changes, the timbre changes, and in good ways too. And I feel like my voice has gotten a little, they used to describe me as being silvery when I was younger. I had a silvery, it went between silvery and creamy. So silver cream. I don't know what that is. But now it's described as a little more bronzed, a little warmer, especially in the middle part of my voice. There's a little more body in the middle. And the lower voice obviously has gained a comfort that I used to not have. And I was always the mezzo with no low notes. You know, I was never anything close to Dolores Zajic, who was like a contralto, alto, mezzo, you know, or Stephanie Blythe, you know, these women with these amazing low voices. That was never me. But I had a good top. Getting a phone call. Anyway, the roles changed when I stopped doing, you know, when I stopped doing Carabinos and some of the Mozart pants roles. And then when I was just in my probably around 40, into my 40s, I started doing what we called big girl parts. And that started with Iphigenie, Gluck's Iphigenie en Tauride, sort of the more heroic female goddesses and queens. And certainly the pinnacle of that genre is Didon and Les Troyens, Berlioz' Les Troyens. So the roles changed to sort of more mature-ish power women, which is good. Interestingly, you know, as you mentioned before, I've sung a lot of French music, and it's been a real cornerstone of my career. And one of the most iconic French opera roles is, of course, Debussy's Mélisande. And I was asked to sing that part, but I never did because temperamentally, it wasn't my milieu. You know, she's kind of misty and dreamy, and and ethereal. And, I wanted more meat and potatoes in the parts that I do,
Huh. Sounds so
So,
interesting.
so I did never, I would love the music and I love Debussy, but it wasn't my bag. So I never did that one.
So fascinating. Susan, we are nearing the end of our time with you, but is there anything else that you'd like to share with this gathering of educators, music lovers, and opera supporters before you go?
Gosh, I just wish I could see you all individually and say hi and thank you. I don't know how many of you there are out there, but I'm grateful for all of you and all that you do to support us and to love what we do. It if if it weren't for you, we wouldn't have anybody to share with. So we we just love knowing that you're there and that you're spreading the love of opera.
I'm gonna close with the words of Francie Beard in the chat. Thank you so much for sharing with us today, Susan Graham. You are very inspiring, and it is obvious you know how to have a good time. My kind of person.
Oh,
Thank you
thank you.
so much, Susan Graham, on behalf of all of us here and the Met Opera's education team. It is a joy to get to spend this time with you. Thank you.
Well, I can't wait to be in the room with you again sometime soon.
There you
Fingers crossed.
go. There's that
Okay.
optimism. Bye.
Everyone stay safe. Bye.
Come on. I mean, come on. How much do we love this?